Alex Jones here, reporting for Infowars.com. It is Saturday, July 23rd, 2011, a special report from home that's going to be posted in a special text report by Kurt Nemo at Infowars.com in the next 30 minutes. Well, you notice that you type in right wing into Google today, and you get tens of thousands of articles about police Norway suspect a right-wing extremist. And you read on, he's a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, right-wing extremist. And the King and Queen of Norway have visited the island where the massacre happened. Now more than 80 dead total between the car bomb, reportedly, and the massacre on the private media retreat there where the Prime Minister was set to visit. And I've checked into the Norwegian papers. It was not known that the Prime Minister would be there. But this guy somehow found out. We're going to get into that here in a moment in this special report. But there you have it, 8,000 plus articles about the right-wing killer there. And then you can also find hundreds and hundreds of others. So it is definitely over 10,000 articles parroting that. And funny, the day before this happened, the sixth biggest story in the world on the internet, according to Alexa.com, was this article, linked by the Drudge Report, Fox News, Breitbart, the Daily Mail, and a bunch of other newspapers. This was covered. DHS video characterizes white Americans as most likely terrorists. And in the roughly 10-minute video, they show dozens and dozens of white terrorists bombing and mass shooting and stealing and killing, and the good minorities all reporting on them. Now again, first they brand the police state and the loss of rights for minorities like Hitler did with Jews and communists. And I was the person here saying, let's not stereotype Muslims in people. And by the way, for those of you that love to hate brown people or Muslims, remember, the tyranny you're setting up today will be used against you. So some weak-minded people see my videos talking about how they're going to shift over to whites being the main terror threat and say, oh, what? You're a racist? You're saying it's blacks? No, I'm saying it's manufactured, like the fake WMDs in Iraq, the Gulf of Tonkin, Operation Ajax, the list goes on and on. This is how the system, when it's doing unpopular things, rallies the people around the cause of the government. As Bill Clinton said, he owed his re-election to Oklahoma City. He told the press corps that in 1996 on Air Force One. Stage terror, provocateur terror is as old as civilization itself. It's as old as the hills. It's called a frame-up. And for government and media to laugh at people that bring this up shows that they just don't want you looking at it. So we told you, and Homeland Security had to respond to this and say, oh no, it's not about racial profiling. It's about getting everybody tattling and spying on each other and not looking at who the real culprits historically are of most terrorism, i.e. the state or private corporate interest. Okay, getting into other anomalies. They've released this photo of the supposed shooter, and they say that the people, as high as 80 or more, killed just on the little private island where he dressed up like a police officer, reportedly, would just get in fetal positions and play dead. This is what the media teaches us to do. They teach school children this, and every security expert I've talked to, but also just common sense, shows you need to charge the person, you need to attack them, you need to fight them. And at Fort Hood, the other patsy, mentally ill psychiatrist that turns out the government knew for 2 years was planning the attack, being run by the Pentagon dinner guest Anwar al-Awlaki. Oh yeah, that's Fox News AP. Head of Al-Qaeda, number 3 in Al-Qaeda, meeting secretly at the Pentagon. Look it up. Major Hassan worked for him, and they just left him alone. But at Fort Hood, they didn't lay down. They were military trained, and they charged him, and so a lot less people died. 80-something didn't die, only 13. Still a terrible number. But there they are, and the media goes over the fact that folks got in a fetal position. Whether it's Blacksburg, Virginia, you name it, folks are trying to get in fetal positions. Well, not me. And by the way, I've had a gun pulled on me before when I was a teenager, and my instinct then was to take it away, and I did then pistol whip the individual. And that's on record. So there we go. I mean, that's just my instinct. You got fight and flight, I fight. Unless I can clearly get away, then I do try to get out of the way. But getting on the ground and begging isn't going to help you. Why would a right-wing nationalist massacre young, predominantly white Norwegians? Now, again, this is the whole angle they're going with. Oh my gosh, he didn't like the banker bailouts. He didn't like all the immigrants being brought in. Oh my gosh, just like the media told us, the right-wingers that don't want the New World Order and open borders and don't want foreign banks running their countries, they're going to start blowing things up. And that takes us now to this point. Do you remember this report? Now, 2 years ago, secret state police report was really federally written. Ron Paul, Bob Barr, Chuck Baldwin, libertarians are terrorists. And people that want to end the Fed, people that want us out of the United Nations. That was the MIAC report. We were sent many other reports. We pretty much broke this simultaneously with WorldNet Daily. We were sent the report as well. And it got into the master Homeland Security report that's linked in this article. Homeland Security on guard for right-wing extremists, returning U.S. military veterans, singled out as particular threats. Yeah, the number one threat. And I've shown you the New York Times. Oh, I should have pulled that up. Where I think the headline was "Scouts trained to take on terrorists," and the first line is the disgruntled veteran has to be killed. So behind the scenes, the architecture of the Homeland Security grid, about 95% of it in their own manuals, is geared towards the American people and returning veterans, libertarians, gun owners. So you remember that big hubbub, and the White House actually defended that and said, yes, the veterans are the number one threat. And so now they've got to brand that it's not just the brown people or the Muslims, which some racist whites were happy to say take their rights away. Well, you were losing your rights at the same time, and I have predicted on record in the last year that soft target asymmetrical attacks would begin in Europe as they're fully imploded to the private IMF and World Bank by design, and that this would be a way to get the population to rally around the government. And that's what we're being told now. This guy didn't like the immigrants. He didn't like the Muslims. He didn't like the open borders. And so he's a horrible kid killer, just like an Operation Gladio, NATO, U.S. operation, hundreds of bombings in Europe declassified in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. This has come out in the Italian parliament, the Bologna bombing and other events. They would target areas with children because that always gives them something really to work with to outrage the public. And it's funny, this guy is a Mason. They've pulled this down off his Facebook. They've pulled it down off other sites. The media, when they do post this photo, blurs out the Masonic apron. And why is this important? Government and corporate intelligence agencies will recruit out of Masonic lodges because they're already secretive, and they're really the precursor of intelligence agencies. That's what they're vestigially or ceremonial are today. So they tend to recruit out of these. It's big scandals in England right now that they can't even have a real investigation of the government because most of the ministers are Masons and the prosecutors and police are Masons. That's been happening in the big News of the World News Corps scandal over in England and the mysterious deaths and the rest of it. And we had other Masons and reports of it being connected to pedophilia and other things. In the Port Arthur massacre in Australia, in Tasmania, used to take their Second Amendment, their guns away with the massacre. Same MO with the Dunblane massacre, and even the Wikipedia page talks about the Masonic ties and the pedophile connections that one of their operations, the Masons and the judges running little kids through their different conduits, was about to be busted, so they activated this guy. Reportedly, there were other shooters. So it's just the same MO, really over and over and over again. And I told you, because I could see in the sitcoms, the dramas, the made-for-TV shows, but also the news programs, the talking point that blonde-haired, blue-eyed people are the terrorists. They are going to start killing everybody. And not only is this because government was getting ready to stage these events, it also will provocateur, in some cases, mentally ill people, because it gives them the idea to do it. Instead of committing suicide, what you do is you go out and you kill a mass of people. This is too well coordinated. The bomb is too sophisticated, dressed up like the policeman, just like we had reports with Columbine of cops inside shooting people, and it even came out in court. The cops, quote, were in there and did accidentally shoot some people, but that got swept under the rug, and 124 propane bombs were found inside. That CBS News, some of them giant.